Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief, and all your fellow singers. There's a special song that we use at funerals and at special occasions. I'd like to invite our Chief, Dennis, to say his opening remarks.
Bonjour, Totem and Anak, Sungwabegin Udishnikas, Benassi Totem. I'll get up to Marja and Namno. Where I give you Marzian. Adashki Candamin, where I give me a goman. Where to be Marz at the Nishnaba up to Nishin. Where I give him a set and Nishnaba up to Nishin. Where I give me a goman, Mishomus Nanak no Konan, on Wake Cheese, or Wake Cheese, you get out, Chan Schnabe. The Gwech ticket. Our friends, relatives, family. I want to acknowledge my Indigenous mentor, Ernie Daniels, knowledge keeper. Also David Daniels here, his brother. Big much for being with us here today, and all of you beautiful people. Well, when I woke up this morning, I was very difficult. I know we live in challenging times. So this morning, I made a visit. I paid homage to our first chief, Kishkimakwa, at his gravesite. I had a pipe ceremony there with our great creator, our relatives, our ancestors that have gone on before us. And to give acknowledge to him for what he has given us. And I also went to our family gravesite, visited my mom, my grandmother, my aunties, uncles, cousins, to pay homage to them also too. I know we live in very unprecedented times. A week ago, the disclosure of a mass gravesite at a residential school. We've heard the stories as young children growing up in our communities. And sometimes those stories were withheld as it was too difficult for our relatives to share their stories on what happened at these residential schools. My heart goes out to the little ones that were lost souls for many, many years. You know, we walked through this pandemic as our grandparents did, 1918. They were just children. I know 2020 was a very difficult year for all of us, our families, our communities, right across this country. And to persevere and to continue walking forward for us as Anishinaabe people, Indigenous people across what we know as Canada. I know that journey is very, very challenging at times, and I know many reasons for that. That government, churches, what they have inflicted on Indigenous people and our way of life to destroy our social fabric, our traditions and our customs. That song we sang is a song my grandfathers used to sing, Wallace Peters, Ben Meaches. That song is a Grass Dance Society song. That song was entrusted to our people. As you know, the Grass Dance Societies, our ancestors, our grandfathers, our grandmothers, the purpose of those societies was to maintain who we are as Anishinaabe people, Dakota people, Cree people, Métis people, Dene, to maintain who we are as Indigenous people. And I acknowledge them for being able to preserve those songs during what was a very, very troubling time for our people. And sometimes destiny befalls us. This property at one time was held by the Department of Indian Affairs. And in 1981, this land was repatriated to the Long Plain people because of the good work that Ernie Daniels, our former chief here, and his council. And there's a reason for that. Behind me, we have Portage la Prairie Residential School. 2005, it was declared a provincial heritage site. Last year, after many years, we managed to achieve National Historic Site status on this building. No different than Kamloops, this building will remain as a testament to our will to survive for our generations, for our parents, our aunties, uncles that attended these schools. Although it's a scar on the soul of this nation, that history must be preserved. Right across this country, we've seen unprecedented support from Canada, Canadians. Finally, I think they may come to understand the challenges we face as Indigenous people in this land. Finally, they will hopefully come to terms at what happened at these schools. On behalf of our Long Plain Council, we've taken steps now to begin searching this property. Also, as there may be the possibility of unmarked graves on this historic sacred site, this historic Kishkimakwa Aki. Last year was the first time we ventured into ground penetration work here at Kishkimakwa, but more needs to be done. We recognize that. We're thankful that Canada, I believe we have their support in researching residential school sites across this country. We've heard many stories in recent days from our own Long Plain, Anishinaabe, Dakota people, that there is the possibility of unmarked graves that are here. So I'm hoping we'll be able to begin that important work with the guidance of our knowledge keepers to be able to come to some understanding and some closure on what has happened at these sites that were quite horrific to the most innocent of innocents, our young little children. I've heard stories from my aunties and uncles about what my mother endured at this school. My uncle Norman Peters shared his experience here and how he was left here. That second grade there, he was battling pneumonia, and they left him on the grate. Fortunately, he had a young friend that joined him through the night, and they comforted one another, and he survived. And he's here with us today, here with us. And he went on to work for this country, but more importantly, he went on to serve this country as a peacetime veteran. That's the kind of forgiveness our people hold dear to their hearts. This is a very historic and sacred place. No question in our minds, in our hearts, in our souls. More must be done. I know we were planning, our director, Lorraine Daniels, who's done some tremendous work along with her lone staff member, on looking after this residential school. I know we were planning a fundraising event for residential school here, as it is challenging to keep this building open. I believe we'll be postponing that event. We had scheduled it for June 20th, which is the Long Plain 145th anniversary. And this year marks our 150th anniversary to Treaty One Nation. And I'm thankful that my staff have brought the Treaty One Nation Eagle staff to be here with us. Very thankful for that. I'm thankful for my Koda, Dallas Cinnabon, who brought his beautiful teepee here also too. I'm thankful for all of you who've endured so much because of government policies, legislation that set out to destroy who we are as Anishinaabe Dakota people at Long Plain. And I'm thankful that we were able to persevere and continue on the trail of our ancestors to bring this country together. That's all we ever wanted through the signing of those treaties, to be true partners here in this country. That's all we ever wanted, and that's all so important for us to continue that work. As you all know, I've been in office as a public servant for well over 26 years, and I'm winding down my term as a chief. And I'm hopeful that, it's been a long haul. It's been a very trying time for all of our leadership throughout the generations. And I acknowledge our special guests that are here. Chief McLean, who's representing our AFN Regional Chief, Kevin Hart. My son, the Grand Chief of the Southern Chiefs Organization, Jerry Daniels. He had his birthday yesterday. Acknowledge him for all the great work that he's doing. Acknowledge our relatives, Chief Paggi. I'm glad that he was able to be here. I reached out to him and said, you need to be here. Thank you, Chief Paggi, for being here. Acknowledge our AMC chief. Well, he's not running for national office. And I acknowledge him for being here to bring greetings and words of comfort to our gathering here today. And I acknowledge Melanie Ferris. She is here representing, and she is one of our own. Oh, here she is over here. And she'll be bringing greetings on behalf of MKO. Grand Chief Garrison Setti couldn't be here. He's up north with a private family matter. And I acknowledge the mayor for being here, the city of Portage, Mayor Ferris. He's always been a great support to the Long Plain, working with us collectively. He knows the importance of the work we do collectively. And he's a great partner. Thank you for being here. Also want to acknowledge Andrew Carrier, who's the Minister of Residential Schools on behalf of the Métis Nation. Thank him for being here also too. And especially our survivors that are here. My aunties, uncles, cousins. How you managed to walk through all of that. I honor you. I want to wish you all well. We have a lot of work to do to repatriate our lands, to repatriate our economic development, reconciliation. I want to acknowledge Karen Letts, Dave Daniels. We visited the Hillside Cemetery the other day, offered a prayer. We have young children that passed away at this residential school that are buried over there. And this morning they went, also Dave and Karen, to put a marker on one of those grave sites that are there. So we'll continue doing that work. I want to acknowledge the memorial, the eagle statue that's over here, and all the people that came to pay homage, to remember from all walks of life that have come. I want to acknowledge my nephew Tim Daniels. Him and I and Lorraine were here, raised the Treaty One Nation flag at the flagpole here. I want to acknowledge all of you. Keep the fight, keep the strength, keep the resilience. Everything that our ancestors have done to help us in this troubled world. No fault of our own. And I hope Canadians begin to recognize that. The tragedy, the trauma that they inflicted on our people, and we're still here. And we're moving, and we're rebuilding our languages, our customs, and our traditions. This is what our ancestors, all of the children that went to these schools that were punished because they spoke their language, like my mom. They wanted us to continue on this sacred journey. They wanted us to continue to have that strength, but also that humility, also that support from all of us that are surviving here today, that are continue. I want to acknowledge the jingle dress dancers. They'll be singing here, dancing here soon. We'll be singing for them, our relatives. I went to see my little granddaughter today. She'll be dancing here too. And I told her, you need to dance for Grandma, your great-grandmother. You need to dance for all of the survivors. It is a healing dance. I know we miss powwows. We miss gatherings. That'll come back very soon. I know many of us have danced right through the pandemic. Songs, ceremonies, our culture is still thriving in our home fires, our feasts, our family feasts, our sun dances. We are moving into the Sundance season, our sweat lodges. We really need our young people to join with us, and they are. I apologize, I rarely get emotional. Sometimes I carry so heavy a burden, and I'm not sure how I release that. I know dancing is one, singing is one. And I know going forward, my work will continue helping out the Long Plain, helping out our Indigenous people, however that looks down the road. As I close out my chieftainship at Long Plain in April 2022. So I want to thank you all. Thank you to our elders, my council, my staff, for all the great work you've done under a lot of pressure, time and time again. You've been resilient, you've been strong. And we need to continue that in memory of those 215 little ones. And there is more out there. Justice Murray Sinclair estimated up to 6,000 unmarked graves across this country. So the real work begins, the next chapter. We've closed the dark chapter of residential schools, but there's still much more that needs to be done. There's still to convince Canada and the province to recognize our sovereignty as Indigenous people, Indigenous governments. They really have a hard time doing that. And I don't understand why. Knowing what we know, knowing what history has shown us, I don't understand why they won't work with us, especially the provincial government, on reconciliation, economic reconciliation, and land repatriation. That question, I always ask myself, why are they doing this? But we will continue on the march of repatriation, the march of land repatriation, language reclamation. We will do that. As a young man, I had a very, very hard time speaking the Anishinaabe language, and I'm still learning. But I'm very thankful my aunties, uncles still are able to speak that most sacred language. And I love hearing them speak. And I encourage you more and more, if you're a fluent speaker, give English language a rest in your home fires and speak to your children, your grandchildren, the language. It's that important. We wish to kit wa nogum gagay dibuano ma. Ikanan anin apchas anagat. Chibi mazit Anishinaabe. Ikan demin wa gagi bumbus min ma Anishinaabe mikanang apchas anagat. Jikan dan dash. Jikan dan. Wa mishumas nanak no ko nanak wa gagi mini gomin anin gwek chishige acha Anishinaabe. Me, yeah. Aperture. She can them in. Ginakona. Aware. Okay, I see Gagi Namayad Gishema de do. Ginakona. Again, Gagi Nagamoat. Ginakona. Ogijiganag. Ogimak. Nogam gagi, vindigation wat, ma, kishkima kwa aki. I would not have known what I said when I was 13 years old. But I learn every day. And there's a very important word I learned many years ago. And I want my elders, my knowledge keepers, to correct me if I'm wrong. The word is jijab wing. To get through, to come through. Lishna beg, jijab wing. Angwamazik. Ijuwain kana. Ginakwanim kana. Miigwech.